My name is Maya, and for the past 7 years, Apex Innovations was more than just a company to me, it was my life's work. I joined as a junior data analyst, fresh out of college, brimming with ambition and a keen understanding of complex algorithms. From day one, I poured every ounce of my energy into mastering their intricate data infrastructure. I quickly climbed the ranks, proving my worth with every successful project and every innovative solution. My colleagues, mostly men, often underestimated me at first glance, but my results always spoke for themselves. I thrived on the challenge of transforming raw data into actionable insights, helping Apex Innovations become a leader in its field. My specialty was the Nexus, Apex's proprietary data store, a colossal repository of information that was the company's crown jewel. I had designed key components of its architecture, optimized its performance, and implemented its most critical security protocols. It was my baby, a testament to my skill and dedication. I often worked late, fueled by coffee and the thrill of solving complex problems. The Nexus was not just a system, it was a living entity that I understood better than anyone else in the entire organization. I knew its every vulnerability, its every strength, and the delicate balance that kept its immense power stable. My efforts were recognized, at least on paper. I received promotions, bonuses, and accolades, culminating in my role as head of data architecture. I was the youngest and only Black woman in a senior leadership position within the tech division. It felt like I was breaking barriers. I genuinely believed in Apex's stated values of meritocracy and diversity. I saw my success as proof that hard work and talent could overcome any obstacle, even in an industry often dominated by a particular demographic. I was proud to be a role model, a testament to what was possible. However, there were subtle undercurrents I chose to ignore. The way certain executives would gloss over my achievements in meetings, or attribute successful projects to the team effort rather than my specific leadership. I dismissed it as corporate politics, not personal. I remember one instance when a new, less experienced male colleague was given a high-profile project I had proposed, simply because he fit the client's profile better. I pushed back, but was told it was a strategic decision, not a reflection on my capabilities. I swallowed my frustration. My focus remained on the Nexus, on making it more robust, more efficient, and more secure. I envisioned a future where Apex's data capabilities would be unparalleled, and I was determined to be at the forefront of that innovation. My ambition was boundless. I had recently completed a massive upgrade to the Nexus, a project that had taken months of tireless work and countless sleepless nights. The new system was faster, more scalable, and more secure than ever before, a true engineering marvel. I felt an immense sense of accomplishment. The CEO, Mr. Harrison, had personally congratulated me, praising my unparalleled expertise and indispensable contribution to the company's future. His words had filled me with a sense of validation, reinforcing my belief in my place at Apex. I felt secure. So, when I received an urgent calendar invite for a private meeting with Mr. Harrison in HR, my first thought was that it was about a new, even bigger project. Perhaps a promotion to a C-suite role, a recognition of my elevated status. I prepared my notes, eager to discuss the future. I walked into the sleek, glass-walled conference room, a confident smile on my face. Mr. Harrison sat at the head of the table, his expression uncharacteristically grim. Beside him, Sarah from HR offered a strained smile. The air in the room felt heavy, charged with an unspoken tension. My heart began to pound, a sudden, cold dread creeping into my chest. This wasn't the celebratory atmosphere I had anticipated. This wasn't about a new project or a promotion. It was something far more serious, something that would irrevocably alter the course of my life. I took my seat, my mind racing, trying to anticipate what could possibly be happening. The silence stretched, thick and uncomfortable, before Mr. Harrison finally cleared his throat, his gaze avoiding mine. The words that followed would shatter my world. Mr. Harrison began by praising my exceptional contributions to Apex, a string of hollow compliments that felt like a prelude to something terrible. He spoke of my dedication, my talent, and specifically, my pivotal role in developing the Nexus. Each word felt like a stab. Then, he delivered the blow. "Maya, he said, his voice devoid of genuine emotion, "we've decided to go in a new direction with the head of data architecture role." My mind reeled, trying to process his words. A new direction? What did that even mean? Sarah from HR interjected, her voice carefully modulated. "This was a difficult decision, Maya, but we believe it's in the best interest of the company's long-term vision." Long-term vision? I was the architect of that vision, the one who built its very foundation. I felt a cold wave of disbelief wash over me. "Are you saying I'm being let go?" The words felt foreign on my tongue, impossible to utter. I had devoted 7 years to this company, sacrificed countless personal hours, all for this moment. Mr. Harrison finally met my gaze, a flicker of something that looked like discomfort in his eyes. "We're restructuring the department. We need someone with a different kind of leadership for the next phase." It was a flimsy excuse, transparent and insulting. Then came the real reason, thinly veiled but unmistakable. "My son, Liam, has just graduated from business school," Mr. Harrison continued, a proud, almost defiant glint in his eye. "He's eager to make his mark, and we believe his fresh perspective will be invaluable." My blood ran cold. Liam Harrison, the CEO's son, a young man barely out of college, with no practical experience in data architecture, was replacing me. The blatant nepotism, coupled with the unspoken racial undertone, hit me like a physical blow. I was being sacked to make way for the leader's white son. It was a stark, undeniable truth that stripped away any illusion of meritocracy I had held. My years of hard work, my expertise, my very identity within the company were being dismissed for a legacy appointment. "Liam will be taking over as head of data architecture, effective immediately," Mr. Harrison stated, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "We've prepared a severance package for you, of course, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors." My voice trembled, but I forced myself to speak. "So, my 7 years of building the Nexus, securing it, making it the most valuable asset of his company, that means nothing?" My question hung in the air unanswered, because they had no honest answer. Sarah quickly interjected, "We understand this is difficult, Maya. We've arranged for you to clear your desk by the end of the day. Your access will be revoked this evening." The cold efficiency of their plan was sickening. They wanted me out, quickly and quietly. I looked at Mr. Harrison, his face now a mask of corporate indifference. He couldn't even meet my gaze properly. The man who had praised my indispensable contribution was now discarding me like a broken tool, all for the sake of his inexperienced son. The humiliation was a burning fire in my stomach, not just for myself, but for every person of color, every woman who had been overlooked or pushed aside to make room for someone less qualified but more connected. This wasn't just my story, it was a systemic injustice. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the polished floor. My hands were clenched into fists, but I forced myself to maintain a semblance of composure. I would not give them the satisfaction of seeing me break down. "Not here, not now." "I understand," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, though each word felt like a shard of glass. "I'll ensure a smooth transition of my responsibilities." It was a lie, of course. There would be no smooth transition, not when they were about to learn the true cost of their decision. I walked out of that room, leaving behind the hushed whispers and the calculated smiles. The corporate world, which I had once seen as a ladder to climb, now felt like a rigged game, designed to keep certain people in power, regardless of merit. The walk back to my office felt like an eternity, each step heavy with the weight of betrayal. My mind was a whirlwind of anger, hurt, and a simmering sense of injustice. 7 years. Gone. Just like that. All for a man who hadn't earned his place. As I began to clear my desk, mechanically packing my personal items, the initial shock gave way to a cold, hard resolve. I thought of all the times I had been overlooked, subtly undermined, or had my ideas appropriated. This wasn't an isolated incident, it was a pattern. The Nexus, my creation, the very system that was Apex's lifeline, its multi-billion-dollar asset. They believed they could simply hand it over to Liam, a novice, and expect it to function seamlessly. They had no idea of the intricate knowledge required to truly manage it. I remember the countless hours I had spent debugging complex issues, The late nights when I was the only one who could pinpoint a critical flaw. The Nexus was not just lines of code, it was a complex ecosystem, and I was its primary caretaker. They had underestimated me, not just my technical prowess, but my intelligence, my foresight, and my capacity for strategic thinking. They saw me as a replaceable cog, easily swapped out for a more suitable model. This was their gravest mistake. A thought, sharp and clear, cut through the fog of my emotions. They had no idea of the unique, undocumented redundancies and fail-safes I had built into the Nexus. Features designed to protect it, but also, inadvertently, to protect my own indispensable position. I had always been meticulous, even paranoid, about data security. Years ago, I had implemented a series of highly complex, multi-layered encryption protocols and data migration pathways that only I fully understood. It was a fail-safe for the company, but also for me. No one else at Apex had the complete picture, the master key to the Nexus's deepest workings. I had kept certain architectural nuances and emergency recovery procedures to myself, a professional safeguard in a competitive environment. Now, it was my leverage. The idea wasn't about destruction, but about revelation. It was about exposing their arrogance, their blatant disregard for merit, and the perilous vulnerability of their most valuable asset without its true architect. It was about making them see what they had lost. I took a deep breath, the anger solidifying into a focused determination. This wasn't about revenge in the petty sense. It was about justice, about proving that competence and integrity could not be so easily dismissed, especially when the stakes were this high. I opened my laptop one last time, not to pack files, but to execute a series of pre-planned, subtle commands. These were not malicious. They were simply designed to initiate a complex data migration and re-encryption process that would render key parts of the Nexus inaccessible without my specific intervention. It was like a digital lock, and I was taking the only key with me. The process would be slow, gradual, and undetectable in its initial stages. It would only become apparent when Liam, or anyone else, tried to access the deeper layers of the data store. I carefully deleted my local logs and wiped any traces of my activity. My movements were precise, deliberate, born of years of working with complex systems under pressure. This wasn't an emotional outburst. It was a calculated, strategic maneuver. As I zipped up my bag, I felt a strange sense of calm. The humiliation was still there, a dull ache, but it was overshadowed by a quiet confidence. They had made their bed, and now they would have to lie in it. Or rather, they would have to try and find their bed in the dark. I walked out of the office for the last time, nodding politely to the few colleagues I passed. My head was held high, my gaze steady. They had underestimated me, but they would soon learn that some architects cannot be so easily replaced. In the days following my dismissal, I received a few perfunctory emails from former colleagues, expressing vague regrets or offering to keep in touch. Most of them, however, quickly distanced themselves, unwilling to risk their own positions by associating with someone who had been restructured. I spent my time reflecting, not just on my personal situation, but on the broader implications of what had happened. It wasn't just about me. It was about the systemic issues that allowed unqualified individuals to rise based on privilege, while talent was sidelined. News about Liam Harrison's takeover at Apex started trickling through my network. Initial reports were glowing, praising his youthful energy and innovative vision. It was a carefully crafted narrative designed to legitimize his undeserved promotion. I heard through a former junior colleague that Liam was struggling. He was reportedly overwhelmed by the complexity of the Nexus, constantly asking basic questions about its architecture and demanding simplified explanations. My heart felt a grim satisfaction. They had dismissed my expertise as easily replaceable. They believed that anyone, especially someone with the right last name, could step into my shoes and manage a system that had taken me years to master. Their arrogance was truly astounding. I imagined Liam, sitting in my old office, staring at the complex schematics of the Nexus, completely out of his depth. He wouldn't know the subtle interdependencies, the hidden dependencies, or the specific sequence of commands required for certain operations. The data migration I had initiated was designed to be a slow burn. It wasn't an immediate crash, but a gradual degradation of access and integrity for anyone without the full, nuanced understanding of its new configuration. It was a digital quicksand. Apex's data operations would slowly become less efficient, less reliable. Critical reports would take longer to generate, minor errors would pop up, and data retrieval would become increasingly frustrating. It would be a death by 1,000 cuts. I knew the exact points of failure, the specific data sets that would become inaccessible first, and the critical systems that would eventually grind to a halt. It was a masterpiece of controlled chaos, designed to expose their vulnerability without outright destruction. My former colleagues, the ones who had worked closely with me on the Nexus, would likely be the first to notice the subtle shifts. They would report issues, but without my comprehensive knowledge, they wouldn't be able to diagnose the root cause. Liam, in his inexperience, would likely dismiss their concerns, attributing them to teething problems or resistance to change. His inability to grasp the technical nuances would only exacerbate the growing crisis. He was a figurehead, not a leader. I spent my days researching, reading, and planning my next steps. This period of forced unemployment became a time of intense personal growth. I realized I had been so focused on proving myself within Apex's flawed system that I had lost sight of my own potential beyond it. I started sketching out ideas for a new venture, something that would leverage my unique skills in data architecture and security, but with an ethical foundation. A company that valued true merit and challenged systemic biases in the tech industry. The pain of the injustice was still present, a constant reminder, but it no longer consumed me. It had transformed into a powerful motivator, a fuel for my ambition to build something truly my own, something that reflected my values. I knew the chaos at Apex would eventually escalate. The Billionaire data store would become a liability, a symbol of their hubris. And when it did, they would realize the true cost of underestimating the woman they had so carelessly discarded. My phone remained silent. No desperate calls from Apex, no frantic pleas for help. They were still in denial, still believing they could manage without me. But the clock was ticking, and the Nexus was slowly, inexorably, becoming a ghost in their machine. The first public signs of trouble at Apex Innovations emerged subtly. Industry news outlets began reporting on unexplained delays in Apex's new product launches, attributing them to internal restructuring. I knew better. The Nexus was starting to bite back. Then came the more serious reports. Apex Innovations experiences significant data retrieval issues, followed by client confidence wanes as Apex's core services face outages. The slow burn I had initiated was now a roaring fire, consuming their operational stability. I learned through my network that Liam Harrison was in a state of panic. He was reportedly blaming his team, demanding impossible solutions, and generally demonstrating a complete lack of leadership. The fresh perspective was proving to be a catastrophic liability. The company's stock began to dip, a direct consequence of the growing instability. Investors, once confident in Apex's data prowess, were now questioning its foundational integrity. The Billionaire data store was no longer a source of strength, but a gaping wound. My calculated move wasn't about deleting data. It was about making it inaccessible and unreliable without the specific, intricate knowledge I possessed. It was like a complex puzzle, and I had taken the only piece that made it whole. I had implemented a series of cascading data integrity checks that, without proper sequencing and unique decryption keys, would continuously flag data as corrupted or incomplete. It was a self-preserving mechanism that only I could disarm. Every attempt by Apex's remaining data team to bypass these checks only triggered more sophisticated safeguards, further entangling the system. The more they tried to fix it, the worse it became, a digital Gordian knot that only I could untie. I watched from a distance, a detached observer. There was no joy in their suffering, only a quiet confirmation of my own worth. They had dismissed me as easily replaceable, but the Nexus, in its silent rebellion, was proving them profoundly wrong. The irony was palpable. The very system I had built to be robust and secure was now their undoing, precisely because they had removed its most critical component, me. My expertise was not just a skill, it was the very essence of the Nexus's functionality. I received a cryptic message from a former senior colleague, a man who had always been skeptical of Liam's appointment. Maya, it read, The nexus is in critical condition. No one here knows how to fix it. We're losing millions daily. I didn't respond. My time with Apex was over. My focus was now on my own future, on building something new and better. Their crisis was a direct result of their own discriminatory choices, not my malice. I had simply removed myself, and the system followed. The news reports became more dire. Apex Innovations faces potential bankruptcy amidst unprecedented data crisis. The once mighty company, built on the foundation of its data, was crumbling, exposed as fragile without its true architect. I imagine Mr. Harrison's face, once so smug and dismissive, now contorted with panic. His son, the golden boy, had proven to be nothing more than a liability, a symbol of the company's flawed values. The chickens were coming home to roost. This wasn't revenge, it was a consequence. A natural outcome of a system that prioritized privilege over performance and ignored talent based on arbitrary factors. I had simply allowed the truth of their choices to manifest. The Billionaire data store was now a burden, a monument to their short-sightedness. They had wanted to move me aside, to erase my contribution, but in doing so, they had inadvertently removed the very core of their empire. The chaos at Apex Innovations escalated into a full-blown crisis. News channels reported on the company's plummeting stock, the mass exodus of clients, and the desperate attempts by their legal team to mitigate the damage. The Billionaire data store was now a public spectacle of failure. Liam Harrison, once hailed as the company's future, was now the subject of ridicule and criticism. Stories leaked to the press about his incompetence and his inability to grasp even basic data management concepts. His privileged ascent had led to a very public downfall. I heard that Apex had brought in external consultants, highly paid experts, to try and salvage the nexus. They reportedly spent weeks trying to unravel the system, only to declare it unrecoverable without the original architect's unique insights. Mr. Harrison, the CEO who had so casually dismissed me, was facing immense pressure from the board and shareholders. His decision to replace me with his inexperienced son was now seen as a catastrophic error, directly responsible for the company's near collapse. The irony was almost poetic. They had wanted to move me aside for a white son, believing I was expendable. Instead, they had inadvertently dismantled the very foundation of their wealth, proving that true value cannot be so easily dismissed or replaced. I felt a complex mix of emotions. There was no triumphant glee, but a quiet satisfaction that justice, in its own way, was being served. It was a vindication, not just for me, but for anyone who had ever been marginalized or underestimated in the workplace. The Nexus, my creation, had become a silent witness to their injustice, a digital monument to their hubris. It had performed exactly as I had designed it to, protecting its integrity from unauthorized or incompetent management, even if that management was the CEO's son. My phone finally rang. It was Mr. Harrison. His voice, once arrogant and dismissive, was now laced with desperation. He pleaded with me, offered exorbitant sums, even hinted at a return to my old position with a significant raise. "Maya, please," he begged. "The company is on the brink. We need your help. Only you can fix the nexus." His words were a stark contrast to his demeanor just weeks earlier. The power dynamic had shifted completely. I listened calmly, allowing him to fully articulate his desperation. Then I politely declined. "Mr. Harrison," I said, my voice steady and clear, "my time at Apex Innovations is over. My expertise is no longer available to a company that doesn't value merit." He tried to argue, to cajole, even to threaten, but I remained firm. I had moved on. My purpose now was not to salvage their sinking ship, but to build my own, on a foundation of integrity and true competence. The news of my refusal quickly spread through the industry, adding another layer to Apex's public humiliation. It was a clear statement. Some bridges, once burned, cannot be rebuilt, no matter how desperate the crossing. Apex Innovations eventually declared bankruptcy, its Billionaire data store becoming a symbol of its downfall. The company that had once been a titan in the tech world crumbled, a cautionary tale of nepotism and discrimination. Watching their collapse, I felt a profound sense of closure. It wasn't about revenge. It was about the natural consequence of actions. They had chosen privilege over talent, and the market had delivered its verdict. My focus now was entirely on my future, on the new path I was forging. The experience, though painful, had been a catalyst, forcing me to recognize my true worth and to pursue a destiny far greater than anything Apex could have offered. With the Apex chapter firmly closed, I channeled all my energy into building my own venture. The experience had been a crucible, forging my resolve and clarifying my vision. I decided to launch Ethos Data Solutions, a consultancy focused on ethical data architecture and security. My mission was clear: to help businesses build robust, secure data systems while upholding principles of fairness, transparency, and inclusion. I wanted to create a company that stood in stark contrast to the discriminatory practices I had endured. I started small, working from a co-working space, leveraging my extensive network of contacts who believed in my abilities. My reputation, ironically, had been enhanced by the Apex debacle. My former colleagues knew I was the one who truly understood complex data. My first clients were smaller startups and nonprofits, drawn to my expertise and my commitment to ethical practices. I poured the same dedication into Ethos Data Solutions as I had into the Nexus, but this time, every effort was for myself and my values. I hired a small team of talented data scientists and engineers, prioritizing diversity and merit above all else. We fostered a culture of collaboration, respect, and continuous learning, a stark contrast to the rigid, hierarchical environment of Apex. The work was challenging, but deeply fulfilling. I was no longer just building systems. I was building a company that reflected my principles, empowering my team, and helping clients navigate the complex world of data responsibly. My personal life also began to heal. The emotional scars of the dismissal slowly faded as I found new purpose and surrounded myself with supportive friends and mentors. I rediscovered hobbies I had abandoned during my all-consuming years at Apex. I started speaking at industry conferences, not about the Apex incident directly, but about the importance of ethical data practices, diversity in tech, and the true cost of underestimating talent. My story, though unspoken, resonated with many. My business grew steadily, fueled by word-of-mouth referrals and a growing demand for ethical data solutions. We began attracting larger clients, drawn by our reputation for integrity and our proven track record of delivering results. I invested wisely, not just in my company, but in my own financial future. I had learned the hard lesson of relying on a single employer, and I was determined to build a foundation of true independence and security for myself. The Billionaire data store that Apex had lost was a painful memory, but it had also been the catalyst for my liberation. It had forced me to step out of a confining role and into a space where I could truly thrive on my own terms. I realized that my true success wasn't about the title I held at Apex, but about the impact I could make, the values I could uphold, and the legacy I could build. My resilience had been tested, and I had emerged stronger. Ethos Data Solutions became more than just a company. It became a symbol of what was possible when talent was valued and integrity was prioritized. We were proving that ethical business could also be highly successful. My journey was far from over, but I had found my footing. I was no longer defined by the injustice I had faced, but by the strength with which I had overcome it, and the inspiring future I was actively creating. Years passed, and Ethos Data Solutions flourished. We moved into a spacious, modern office, our team expanded, and our client list included some of the most innovative and socially conscious companies in the country. We were a testament to the power of ethical business. Apex Innovations, on the other hand, became a footnote in tech history, a cautionary tale of corporate mismanagement and systemic bias. Mr. Harrison retired in disgrace, and Liam faded into obscurity, his brief moment in the spotlight ending in spectacular failure. My true victory wasn't just my professional success. It was the profound sense of purpose I found in empowering others. I established a foundation, the Phoenix Initiative, dedicated to providing mentorship and resources for marginalized individuals pursuing careers in tech. Through the Phoenix Initiative, I shared my story, openly discussing the challenges of discrimination and the importance of resilience. I spoke about finding strength in adversity and using setbacks as springboards for greater achievements. I saw countless young women and people of color, inspired by my journey, pursue their dreams in tech, armed with the knowledge and support I wished I had when I started. My legacy was no longer just about data, it was about people. My personal life was rich and fulfilling. I had built a strong community of friends and found a loving, supportive partner who celebrated my independence and ambition. My days were filled with meaningful work and genuine connections. The memory of being sacked, of being told I wasn't enough, still lingered, but it no longer held power over me. It was a reminder of how far I had come, and a testament to the strength I had discovered within myself. I had truly removed their billionaire data store, not by destroying it, but by taking my indispensable knowledge and skill elsewhere, proving that their most valuable asset was not the data itself, but the mind that built and managed it. My journey was a testament to the fact that while systems may be rigged, individual resilience and strategic action can still lead to profound change. I had turned a moment of profound injustice into the catalyst for my greatest triumph. I often reflected on the day I walked out of Apex, the silence of the office, the weight of their dismissal. In that moment, it felt like an ending, but it was, in fact, the most powerful beginning of my life. My success wasn't just about financial gain. It was about reclaiming my narrative, defining my own worth, and building a future where my values were paramount. It was about proving that integrity and talent would always win in the end. The billionaire data store was gone, but in its place, I had built something far more valuable, a legacy of empowerment, a testament to resilience, and a future defined by my own terms. My true net worth was not just in my assets, but in my impact. I had been sacked to move aside for the leader's white sun, but in doing so, they had unleashed a force they could never have anticipated. I had removed their most valuable asset, not with destruction, but with the quiet power of my own departure and subsequent rise. My story is a reminder that sometimes the greatest acts of defiance are not loud protests, but quiet, calculated decisions to reclaim your power and build something better. Your worth is not determined by those who dismiss you, but by what you choose to create.